Joshua Tree National Park. I just got done doing some manicuring to just the dead pieces that were growing from this tree here. If you can see, there's still some higher up that are dead that I was unable just to reach because I am a staggering 5'4". Needless to say, the tree looks a lot better, and just got some of the, you see my hands, got some of the old bark off of it that was literally just composting on the living tree. So what happens, I've been in communication with the trees, and what happens is what you see here. There's a lot of fallen trees here. There still are some that are standing, but you see some of the ones that have not been taken care of, i.e. this one right here, which will likely come tumbling down very soon. This happens when we don't do our part as humans and help these trees out. And helping a tree out is more than just, so this trunk right here is the same type of tree that I just got done doing some manicuring to. You can see just by the silhouette of it, and you also can tell by the twistiness that's inside of the tree. And this tree right here, so it doesn't have that black, dark brown, powdery bark on it, because it's literally just composted off. But in the process of it composting off, because, so if you can see here, this part I would say is still living if you look at the color of it. But if you see on the outer extremity of it how it's darker and just really brittle, this death has overtaken the living tree, and which has ultimately caused it to fall and to rot from the inside out. So even though it's a big tree, which means it's been here for a really long time, it's been thriving, because we don't have those ancestral ceremonial purposes like we used to within humanity, we can see how all of nature is taking a hit because of this. So breaking it down just into an everyday humans type of terms, this tree got too heavy with its own death and decay. And so even though, as you can tell, water was being received through the root, the water, it is the desert, so it wasn't enough to sustain the death that had taken over. And it starts from those outer branches as they start to decay. Again, you can see that side where the tree looks more sparse. It's like having dead ends. And you know how it says, like, if you have, clip your split ends because it'll travel up the shaft. It's a lot like that with trees. So if we don't take time to take care of our trees, we will ultimately end up having more like this. So this is this guy here, but then we've got this one here who stood as long as it can. And these are big trees. These are ancient trees. So and new trees will grow every day. It's a part of the cycle. But one of the things about being in the desert is that the trees that do have those deep roots, they're homes to many animals. They provide us with shade, and they provide the animals with shade. And all of wilderness. At the other tree I just got done visiting, I'll insert a video or I'll put a little clip of it, but I was graced with the presence of a baby praying mantis, which was super exciting. So, and that's his home. But if he doesn't have a home, then his species will be unable to thrive. Here again, we see another tree. So this is a great example of what I was talking about with how the bark, you see how I just literally just touched it? This bark is like the myelin on your brain nerves. It's like that sheath that protects this part. So it's almost like these trees have an autoimmune disease, because if and it just, people say, you're crazy for wanting to hug a tree. Yeah, hug a tree, touch a tree. But if we don't, so look at this. Let's just take this whole decaying sheath off, and look at that. Perfectly good tree. Perfectly live good, living tree. But it's got so heavy with the, this stuff, when the bark is no longer living, it's just dead and dry. And as you can see, it's on the tree, but it's not attached to the tree. And there's that stuff there. I don't know if you can see, I'll zoom into it. There is that I'm talking about. And that's not associated with a healthy plant. It does happen. We're in the high desert, so there's high winds, and these plants are facing extreme conditions. But if you even just look here, some of that blackness in there, that's not normal. And as you can see, this tree is absolutely huge. So, it's been thriving for a really long time, but over the last 200 years, I'll say, 248 years, if you really want to put a puzzle on American tree history, we have switched our roles and our purposes within humanity to where taking care of trees and being a tree hugger is something that is not only frowned upon, but is criticized and often associated with a simplistic or psychotic mind, which is absolutely crazy, because this tree, you can see how big the root is. You see there was even new smaller roots still trying to thrive, still trying to be okay. But it's like, okay, but I'm these new roots, they cannot pump they can't pump all the water into this huge tree. So the systems that are already established need to remain healthy, because if the systems that are established, i.e. the branches that have already grown into trunks, if we don't maintain those by, coming out, doing some of the pruning, the same way you would prune your tree at your house, palm fronds. We live in Cali, so if you know about Cali, if you know about the islands, Barbados, Belize, anywhere you go, there's going to be palm fronds, okay? Palm fronds. And, you get to more established or more maintenance areas, you see that a part of the maintenance is the care for the what they'll say is landscaping. But it's more than just landscaping. When you're in the middle of the wilderness, or Joshua Tree National Park, I will definitely call this the wilderness. But it starts very small. It can't, I'll have to do more research just to be able to identify exactly what exactly it is that's taken over the species, whether this is some type of mold that gets into the younger branches, because you see how that just broke off like that. I mean, I barely even touched it. It gets into these the younger parts of it, and then once it's infected these younger branches, it's a lot easier for it to okay, I'm using that as sound effects, but it's much easier for it to affect the trunk of the tree. And once the trunk of the tree starts to decay, the entire tree starts to rot from the inside out. So it's essential that these dead pieces be removed in a timely and an orderly and in a responsible way and in a caring way. You can't just go off. You don't want to go breaking off the pieces that are still living, because they're adding to the tree. But if we don't do something as a nation, as a human race, we stand to lose a lot more of our ancient trees. And we need to be mindful of this, because the more ancient trees that we lose, okay, it's going to be side effects. It's going to be consequences. We have a tree here and it happens. life and decay is a natural part of life. But so this will be what I consider to be in between. I'll call this a youthful tree. Okay, this is not a mature tree, but it's not a baby. It's not a sapling. This tree has a really good chance to be able to survive and thrive. Okay, now so look up top here. You can already see where it may be over scorching from the sun to where the death has come in and has scorched those baby limbs that are not well connected. But however you want to look at it, if we don't take care of that, then there is a high likelihood that the death, and you can even see up there, a spider has kind of built his little bungalow up there. But if we don't take care of those things here, and if you see here, so you see these ones are lively, even though they're towards the bottom, these branches are lively, they're springy. But if you kind of start to look here and you see how those are drooping, those drooping ones are attached to bark that has already had the infection set in. And these are my absolute favorite trees. These are desert pines. I collect pine cones a lot. And these nourish, believe it or not, these nourish a great portion of the forest. The ground squirrels eat these. The seeds that come from the pine cones, there's other deer, other small rodents that also thrive from it. But you can just see it's draping. And when I'm touching it like this, mind you, it's hot out here. It's the heat of the day. But it shouldn't look like that. So let's just look at a healthy part of the tree. Hello. So you can see here where it's still healthy at, where the bark looks healthy. There is a noticeable difference. Let's try to see, can we get in here? Okay. So this is healthy bark. It's healthy. These are vibrant. They're not drooping. They're just doing what they're doing. This has sticky sap right here, which is a great sign of tree health. And the tree does naturally shed on its own. It does. Now, when we get kind of out here to where, again, it starts to build up, and as you can see, there's no infection in there. There's none of that dark, none of that dust or anything like that that's in there. So this tree is okay. But you see some of these ones here where, again, look, just pushed it, and it just, okay, I mean, literally just pushing it. And you can just tell, like, these, okay, that's fine. That one's good. That one just barely touched it. And they almost break off, like, in a really clean way. You can see that. I mean, that's a pretty clean break besides that little ending piece right there. So, but again, you can see where it's just really just crumbling. These young branches right here. So you see here, this branch is about the same size. You see when I touch it, it's got that blackness coming up. And see, look, I did not put any force on that. That was just me kind of just holding on just to kind of show you. And you see it just snapped off. See, same as that, it just snaps off. In comparison to a healthy one, which is where these guys are bendy. You can bend them. They're tender. They're green. So, you know, it's just something for us to pay attention to. Again, you can tell the health of the tree when it has that. This is another tree. I would say this one is pushing up to where it's still young, but it hasn't reached full maturity because you can still wrap your arms around the tree. The tree is fully mature when you can't wrap your arms around that trunk. And everybody's arm lengths are different, but that's just a good quick way to kind of describe it. But we can just see that some things have kind of, you know, I see some drooping over here. So this tree is not bad. It's doing well. It's in a great spot. So, yep, that's my survey. This has been time with the tree doctor. Okay, the tree doctor. Okay, it's just been time out here in Joshua Tree National Park. Stay with me because I will be surveilling national parks across our country and just checking in on the health of them, seeing how they're doing. There's some beautiful mature trees down here. Let's just take a little look. Let's take a little journey down there with me. every tree is vulnerable. So it's not like, but that's what being in tune with nature is. It's just like human beings. Every single human being doesn't succumb to illness and disease, but there are some, might be location, maybe the genealogy, that are more susceptible to having illness and facing disease. And it's the same thing with these trees. So you can see here, we have a nice, beautiful, mature tree here. Look at that trunk. See, look, there goes a squirrel. I don't know if you can see that. He's healthy. He's going up in between the rocks. This is his home. So again, this is not just for the tree huggers and the tree lovers, but if we as a human race do not decide to do something about this, we will lose our trees. And when we lose our trees, we lose access to oxygen, and we lose access to the free housing already provided by nature for the rest of wildlife. So it's bigger than us. But it takes us. We still have a role to play when we face problems throughout humanity, and we feel like it's too big for just one individual person. And that doesn't mean to not get involved. Okay? If you run into another human being and they're facing ailment, and then you hear about another one, you're like, oh, well, everybody's sick, so I'm just not going to get involved. That's not going to be the strongest character as far as the advancement of humanity. And it's the same thing with these trees. You can't look around and be like, well, all the trees are just sick, so let's just let them all die. No, it takes proactive, positive energy to make a change. You can see here, just some of those little tidbits where the squirrel's been eating that. Okay, this one is a good one, like I say, yeah. But you see here how the trunk of this tree is nice and thick. You can't just take your hand. It's probably some outer pieces, you can lift off, but you can't just, and there's ants. Ants being on a tree is another great sign that the tree is living. So it has faced sometimes, but as you can see, those parts that were facing decay, they're off. So this tree is thriving. This tree is doing great. It's got another tree. And as the trees thrive, okay, other plants are more likely to come and to take refuge with that tree. So then there's not just a sole tree standing. We're starting to build back that lushness. And that's just one thing, the only difference between a rainforest and a desert is not only the amount of rain that it receives, but it's the ecosystem itself. It's the way that the plants and the animals and the other wildlife are able to coexist, and not only coexist, but to be able to thrive and to be able to benefit one another. So we are a part of that. Even though we move to cities and we move to these square boxes, we are a part of the problem. Therefore, we should be a part of the solution. And when I say that we are a part of the problem is that we're not playing our role here. And that's not to say all of us are, but as you can see here, so the ones that we saw over there that were drooping, you can see what happens to them. They keep on drooping. They end up losing their leaves. They lose their leaves, and then they don't get those big, thick plaques of bark. It just looks all scraggly, and it's real thin too, almost like a brittle fingernail. It's real thin, and you got some of this powdery stuff here. Just look at this here. That's not normal. You shouldn't just be able to touch the tree and then it just does that like that. So this tree right here, and I'll show you how you can manicure it. So if you're in nature and you see it, go ahead and help your fellow tree out. Don't just leave them hanging. You see how easy that? Very, very minimal. Wear gloves. I'm out and I'm just doing a survey. If you're going to do it, use gloves. Contact your local national park just to see, what kind of resources they have to be able to help you play your part. And every park will be different. But taking off some of that decay, so then that way, the tree is intelligent, but the roots are going to do their job. So even though it's intelligent, it's going to do its job. It's just like when you have diabetes. Your body is still going to produce insulin, but the insulin is not adequate So it's the same way with this tree, where the roots are still going to draw up water from the earth, but it's not being distributed appropriately because there's dead pieces. And so it's only so much without help. So it's just like the human body. You can help your body and kickstart your body if you're facing diabetes by changing your diet, by being more active, whether that's exercise or that's walking or that's just getting up and not having a sedentary lifestyle. But you do have to take a proactive, positive approach to it. You can't just think it's just going to just go away, because again, as you can see here, these ones up here, they're thriving, they're doing well. But if you look just right next door on the same tree, these are drooping, and that shouldn't be. So this still has some bounce to it. I can't just snap this off of it, because you can tell there's still green and still water in here. But right next door, look at that. That's all dead. Okay. So just give nature a fighting chance. It doesn't take, if you're already in nature and you see a tree, communicate with the tree. If you don't want to hug the tree, that's totally on you. The tree may not want to hug you, but the tree is already doing its job by providing oxygen for us. So the least that we could do is to get involved. And if you don't feel like you're the one, if you're out and about and you see a tree, take a picture of it. Tag me in it. Send it. If you see a picture of a tree, send the location of where the tree is at, drop the park, and drop as close as you can approximation to where these trees are at, and we will be all across the country checking in on our trees. That's what we're going to do. And the same way that we check in with one another, that's the same way we have to check in with nature. Here's again more evidence that this tree is sustaining creatures here. The pine cone has for centuries been associated with esoteric knowledge, okay? And there is a lot that has to go into that. You see here, look, just completely, and I mean this in the best way possible, but it's just littered with pine cones. And it's such a beautiful sight to see. You can see all the way even over here, all the way on the hilltop, on the rock top. There's life, there's abundance here. These trees bring us abundance of knowledge, abundance of fruitfulness, abundance of peace, because there's peace when they know, hey, if there's nothing else to eat, I can go to that tree and I can get me some of them pine cones. That's what the squirrel says. Okay. If it's not a nice old lady or a nice young man or young lady or old man, whoever it is playing their part, sitting at the park, throwing me out peanuts, then at least I can come here and be nourished. And this is the natural order of things. This is the natural way. So, again, I'm at Joshua Tree National Park. And I'm just doing a surveillance. As you can see here, there are so many layers to this park. You can even see up in there. I'll come back on my GoPro. But yeah. Help one another. Love one another. Help nature. Love nature. Just do your part. And if you're facing certain illnesses and diseases, then you very well may find yourself overcoming a lot of those ailments just by putting yourself back into your element and therefore being aligned with the universal alignment of order. Some people fear that because they're like, well, I don't want to conform. Well, if you're playing it, if you're a part of society, you're already conforming. Okay, so it's another big area. Okay, and this is a very mature tree. Look at that. You could probably get your arms around that. And as you can see, it's gotten so heavy here. So this one, okay, You can see somebody been over here having a good time. But now that's a whole branch. That's not a twig. That's not a stem. It's definitely not a leaf or a needle. It's a branch. And a branch, right before the branch starts to decay and just fall off like this, then you will see the trunk start to do the same. This tree is okay, and I speak life into the tree in this moment. I speak life into you both. They're producing young fruit here. Yeah, we in a squirrel bungalow. Okay, this tree is very much so alive, producing beautiful pine cones and seeds, pine nuts. That's what they want. They want the nuts out of there for the wildlife community out here. But if this tree keeps on taking, branch losses, also a whole branch here, and as you can see, the wood inside, it is still brown. It's not dark and black with decay, but because the dark and blackness of the decay, and you see this still has very big bark plaques on it, okay? But the heavier it got, so it's heavy, and you can see it started on the outside, so there's that vibrancy on the inside here, but you can see how the death has started to sink in even on the outer layer. See, look, that's just kind of, it's not all there, but it's so heavy it just broke off. But this was bearing fruit at one point in time, and not just only that, there you can see where it started. All it takes is just the tip, and nature will do a lot of it itself. So you don't have to always feel obligated every time you see a tree to do it. But again, if you're already out in nature, okay, do your part. Have a heart, do your part. And you see, it was just too heavy. Just too heavy. That's all. Look at that. I mean, I can just take that's not, especially for these young ones, these should be full of life. They should be teeming and beaming with life. So it's just, there we go. Okay. Again, thank you for tuning in to the Tree Doctor. We are healed and we are healing. One day, one play, and one way at a time. I'm here in the heart of nature. Joshua Tree, okay, came in through the 29 Palm Ventures. We just recently faced a monsoonal storm here. Sunday and Monday, July 14th and 15th, and then again on Tuesday, this first Tuesday here. So if you were one of the many individuals whose home or yard was flooded and faced destruction, I am sending up many prayers to you and your family. If you're one of the many individuals or families who was displaced during the flood and the monsoonal storms that we had here, keep your head up, okay? And keep going, okay? Nature is talking to us. These storms, that's a whole nother video that I make, okay? This is the Tree Doctor video. So keep your head up. And even if you find yourself with your head down, know that that's okay too, because that's a part of life. That's a part of the balance. Okay? So just aim for a balanced life. Aim for a life of fulfillment, of alignment, of enlightenment, and enjoyment. Enjoy yourself when you do it. Don't go out into nature and feel like, oh, well, now I gotta save all the trees. No, you cannot save every single tree. We will not save every single tree, because death ultimately is a part of the cycle that we face in alignment. However, in this ring, in this cycle, let us not forget to continue to put positive forward movement energy into the ring. Don't get stuck. Don't give up. And if you find yourself going backwards, ask yourself, what am I supposed to learn from all of this? Don't beat yourself up. If you find yourself out here, a good read I recommend for you all, the 4 Agreements. It talks about the Toltec wisdom, which has a lot to do with ourselves and humanity. The first agreement is to be impeccable with your word. The second agreement, don't take anything personally, even when it's personal. The third agreement, don't make assumptions. And the fourth agreement is to always do your best. Okay? If you do not, you will not. Let that sink in. Have a wonderful day. Stay thriving. Stay uplifted. Peace.